Hi guys, I have another Copic coloring and card tutorial for you today, and I'm using Ice Cream Emma by the Paper Nestles. She is a rubber stamp and she's adorable. I have all the links down below if you want to go and get her. I am coloring her in those basic same kind of Caucasian colors that I usually do. One of the reasons being that I actually recorded this before the Human Rainbow chart came out, as I'm on vacation at the moment and I needed to pre-record a couple of videos. But also I am going to use some polychromos at the end of this coloring to kind of intensify some of the shadows and to add some more details into her hair and such. I had really much fun doing that, and I want to do that more often and see if I can take my coloring another step as usual. And yeah, when it comes to her hair, I have chosen to use the E40s for her hair. I really like how it gives that kind of dirty blonde, a grayish dirty blonde, which actually fits with most colors. However, I did go a little bit strong on the darker tones, so she comes out a little bit more brown than blonde. But I kind of like the result anyway, so totally okay. The rest of the colors on her is actually chosen to coordinate with the Simon Says Stamp May card kit, which was a wedding inspired card kit. And I actually used the same papers for a big kind of wedding card, which you can see exclusively over at the Paper Notes Dolls blog. That's where the only place I actually added that card, and it's actually quite a sweet card with the same kind of papers. I really like the papers. I usually don't do wedding cards. I have done one or two, and it was fun playing around trying to figure out how to use this card that was very wedding, the card kit that was very wedding oriented, to do a card that wasn't. It's all about the gold and the sweet pinks. And I think this character actually fitted very, very well with that. I'm using some of the toner grays because were some toner grays paper together with that kit, and I thought the colors would fit perfectly together. Here I'm going in with a couple of Prismacolor pens. I'm going to see if I can get them down in the down bar. I haven't gotten them written up, so I do not know which of them there were, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out. I'm using, I think, 2 different colors for her hair, 1 or 2 for the gray parts, and a few for her skin. I'm using them to kind of both giving some extra kind of hair texture to her hair, but also just kind of blending to intensify the shadows in the pinks and to intensify her skin color. Also, that will kind of darken her skin color a little bit. Working with Prismacolors takes a little bit longer for me than working with Copics, but I really, really like the results of blending them together because you get the kind of base pretty quickly, and then you can just play around adding details with the pencils. And that was all I had about the coloring today, I think. It's still a pretty simple coloring to make. It doesn't have a lot of special features. It's just simple shading, but I'm having a lot of fun just playing around, figuring out how to use my pens. I did get the whole set, so I should really use them more often than I do. After I have finished coloring, you will see me cutting out the image, and it looks like it goes very, very fast, and that is because I have sped up the video about 5 times, so I'm not cutting that fast. One little tip when you are fussy cutting your images is try to figure out which the width of the border fits perfectly for you. My favorite size of border makes it easier for me to cut it equally all around the image. These are all the papers that comes in the kit. I'm just using that with the little dots, but I'm using also some of the cardstock that comes in the kit, which is a couple of sheets of cream and this light grey, which I'm going to use as matching and as my sentiment later on. I'm also cutting that sheet down because it's 6 by 6 and I use an A2 size card, so I'm cutting that down to 5¼ by 4 to fit the mat that I have done also. I want to, this is the card base. I've cut the sheet in half and then I'm scoring it a 4¼ which is half again, and that will make a standard A2 size. And I really like making my own card bases because then I can have a card base that fits with the project, even though I usually use white card bases. Now I'm going to do the sentiment, and I'm starting by taking a part of the sentiment, which is happy, and stamping that in VersaFine Onyx Black. Now, I don't stamp this very well. I don't think I've inked the stamp very well, but instead of throwing that away and trying it again, I'm actually using a Copic fine liner and filling that in. I could have used whatever fine liner I had, because as I'm not going to color this with Copics, it is not important to be Copic safe. But this was the perfect width for this specific stamp, so I took this pen and just fill it in with black, being careful not coming outside of the stamp's borders. And that is a very good tip, then you don't have to throw away when you stamp wrong on your paper. I'm actually going to heat emboss the rest of the sentiment on this little card. So I'm using my powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp with Versamark ink, which is a see-through ink for watermarks, but it's a very sticky ink and it stays sticky quite long, so you can use it for embossing. It's brilliant. And then I'm using some Ranger Fine gold embossing powder. This is my favorite embossing powder when it comes to gold colors. I have a few different favorites, but when it comes to gold, this is brilliant. After I heat set that embossing powder, I'm cutting the piece down to just the size that it fits to. I'm also cutting a piece of white cardstock. This is just something I had lying around because I'm going to make a mat, but I'm going to heat emboss that mat. So I start by cutting out a piece of that paper that is just 1/8 of an inch bigger on each side, so you get a 16-inch border. Then I'm going over that little piece of paper with my Versamark. I'm going to pour some embossing powder on that and heat set that. And when it is heat set, I can then use it as my background instead. And then I am going to layer all of the pieces. I'm using my Crafter's Companion tape runner for that. I really like these tape runners because they do stick very well paper to paper, and they are not quite so expensive, and being in Europe I can easily get them from their UK site. It's a UK based company. I stick everything together except for the things that I'm going to foam mount. So I'm adding this layer onto the card. As I said earlier, I think I'm going to do this in landscape mode, which means just that the bend of the card will be on top. I put both the happy and the character on some 3M Scotch foam tape, and that makes the card. I hope you liked it. If you do, please thumbs it up. It means a lot to me. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!